After much ado, we are finally on box number 11. Now, why is this box special? Because it's the box that starts the EX era off properly. So, in today's video, we take a look at another PSA graded return, and finally we return to the truest form, a EX PSA graded return. But before we get started, let's roll that intro. Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. So, random post edit that I also wanted to add into this video. Obviously, my PSA graded returns are oftentimes recorded in batches, and so, I don't always have an exact insight into what's going to come up in the future. However, the homie NFT Pirates and I did a video over on his channel where he interviewed me. He asked me a whole bunch of questions, and I wanted to definitely shout the channel out and tell you guys to go check out that video if you haven't already. Down below in the video will be a link to that video. A card should appear on screen, and I'm actually going to link to the video at the end of today's video as well. In case anyone's curious, no, I'm not an NFT YouTuber now. I think there are a lot of similarities between the types of collectibles. In case you don't know, a non-fungible token or an NFT is something that you can buy and sell on the blockchain, very similar to the way that you may be able to buy a Pokemon card and, have that as a collectible, right? So the homie NFT Pirates and I went ahead and chatted for about an hour. A lot of the content is Pokemon driven, so definitely don't feel turned off if you're not a big NFT person. I definitely recommend going and checking it out. I think it's a cool time. There are a lot of similarities that I think we can call out there. So if you've ever been interested in NFTs, I definitely recommend checking out his channel. Chad does a great job of breaking down some of the basics and making what is otherwise a very scary technological topic very digestible. So I certainly recommend checking out his channel. Go show him some love and support over on Twitter, over on YouTube, and then, yeah, go check out the video, blow it up. Definitely, huge shout out to him again. I'm sure you're going to check out the video, Chad, so thanks again for having me on. I did say we do a pack battle, so currently working on that, but yeah, in the meantime, go check out the video. It's a fun time. It's about an hour long. You'll see some parts of my collection that I actually haven't shown recently on this channel in a minute, so definitely recommend going and checking it out. And once again, thank you to NFT Pirates for having me on. But with all that said, back to the show. In today's video, PSA graded returns. Now, I say this every single video, but down below will be links to the mail day where I got my 287 card PSA graded return back. Make sure to check that out, and of course check out the PSA graded return playlist here on the channel. There you'll be able to learn a little bit more about all of the different PSA graded returns that I have, and specifically about this really cool 287 card return that I recently got back in October of 2021. It took about a calendar year to get back to me. It was submitted way back in September of 2020, and it has some really amazing cards. So I definitely recommend checking out some of the other videos. And hey, if you like what you see here on the channel, definitely feel free to give me a like on this video. It helps me out greatly in the algorithm, and you can support the channel in the best way possible by subscribing. So make sure to do that if you're not already. But without further ado, let's get into what is another PSA graded return. So first things first, we have a EX FireRed and LeafGreen Polyrath Holo. It got a excellent mint 6, really pretty. Again, these are the types of cards that I have a really special place in my heart for, mainly because these are like throwback cards that I just genuinely love. This particular card is the holographic version. Many people will think of the EX era and immediately think of the stamped cards. Those are the reverse foils, but also bear in mind that not only are those restricted to certain series or sets within the EX series, but that FireRed and LeafGreen is not actually one of those sets. So that is our first card for today. Our second is going to be here we go, a EX Unseen Forces Flareon Holo. So this is actually a card that I pulled way back during a EX Unseen Forces opening. It's a really old video, so I can say with a lot of confidence the channel has grown quite a bit since then, and it has also kind of stylistically changed quite a bit since then. But, you know, just something for you to go take a look at if you want to see one of the older videos and actually watch me pull this card. Now, PSA 9. Why is that? Well, you got a bit of whitening down there, you got a bit of whitening up there, and in my experience, if you have 2 small bits of whitening, that pretty much guarantees you're not getting the eye appeal necessary to get a 10. But either way, I think it's pretty cool because I'm actually very happy that this card graded a 9. It's still a beautiful card, and B, really special to me since it's one of the only vintage packs that have ever been opened up here on the channel. Next up, we have a Pidgeot Holo from FireRed and LeafGreen. Not a card that I ever opened up or pulled, probably came off of one of the different lots that I bought. And this one got a 6. I can see tons of scratching against the holo. What's interesting is that FireRed and LeafGreen and many of the EX era sets often get overlooked in terms of the holographic cards. I do think there's a lot of really cool holographic that exists there, and that there are many really cool foil cards, but realistically, it's all about the EX cards and the reverse foil cards. So here's actually what a reverse foil card looks like when it's not one of the stamped sets. So things like EX Team Rocket Returns, EX Deoxys. Here's one of the younger, or sort of older sets, EX Hidden Legends, and you can see that this reverse foil, and I'm trying to get it to come up on screen, but as you can see, there is a holographic Psychic and Steel Energy, since this Pokemon is a dual type. And then if you notice, if I get the foil to reflect at just the right angle, yeah, what you'll see right up here is that the reverse foil is actually all of the different energy types. So you can see Steel right here by my left thumb. Then I think that's colorless or normal, electric, fighting, and this Pokemon card is really weird because of the way that the Pokemon is positioned, but there are all of the energy cards represented in that reverse foil. So it's one of the things that people have come to appreciate the reverse foils from this era for. Next up is a Electrode, and this one you can really get a good example of what a Hidden Legends reverse foil looks like. It just has literally every single energy. Nintendo is the main driver behind this series of cards, so the EX era was exclusively printed by Nintendo, not the Pokemon company, and I realize that the difference might be lost to many people, but realistically the only thing that needs to be noted is that there are some technical differences. But either way, here's a reflection of some of the decisions they made versus what the Pokemon company would later make, starting off with the Generation 4 cards. Here's a really, really cool card. A Dark Celebi Holo from EX Hidden Legends. As you can see, they went relatively straightforward, but one thing to note is that you do have dual-type Pokemon. One of the few times that dual-type Pokemon were prominently featured in the entirety of the TCG's history is during the EX era, especially for the Holon Pokemon. But also, as you can see, some random other Pokemon like the Dark Pokemon also got the special treatment as well. This one got a near mint 8, but a really pretty card nonetheless, and definitely something I'm happy to add to the collection. Next up is a Crobat from Hidden Legends, and as you can see, this card is really cool. Crobat was actually one of the Pokemon that I had on my original run-through of EX Emerald. It sounds weird to say this now, but I didn't know that Crobat evolved from Golbat. And the reason for that is because back then, I mean, the internet was still like relatively cool, so like Cerebi.net was like the place to go. But of course, some folks didn't have access to internet at home back then, so you'd have to like hopefully sneak that into your computer time at school or something like that. And so this is one of those instances where like I look back to a card like this and it like brings back that rush of memories. And makes me feel very old, frankly, so there's that. But again, really, really pretty card. I don't remember ever pulling a card like this, so I'm sure this was in that lot of cards that I purchased, which included some EX era cards. And it was actually a smaller lot of cards. So this particular lot included a whole bunch of EX era cards, which is really what attracted me to it. But what's funny is that the person who sold it to me reached out to me on Instagram and said, hey, I have this lot of cards. I don't really do much Pokemon, so I don't really know much of what's going on. He sent me photos, you know, we kind of negotiated. He had a price in mind, and I thought it was a relatively fair price. So that's how I ended up in possession of many of these cards. These particular EX era cards, I hope will probably just end up in my collection again. So these aren't going anywhere. Here is a 2004 Moltres from FireRed and LeafGreen. These were the set secret rares, so numbered 115 of 112. And what was cool about these is that while all the other EXs were very distinctly EX pattern, these were shatter foil. So as you can see, as I move them back and forth, you can see that sort of shadow hollow foil pattern. That is what is known as a shatter foil or a shattered hollow foil EX era card. Just in case anybody's curious, the surface of these cards feels almost waxy, and that's because of the way that they have to layer on that additional, I guess, material that gives these cards their shatter foiling. One time, way back when, I opened one random eBay pack of FireRed and LeafGreen and pulled one of these. That one got graded a PSA 10. This one got a PSA 8, so not terrible. The back of this card is actually surprisingly good. Like, I've seen some 10s that haven't quite looked as good as this one does on the back anyway. But the problem with EX era cards, especially the ultra rare EX cards, there's a lot of surface that can get scratched, especially with that hollow foil edging. So just something to bear in mind. Here we have a EX Mr. Mime or Mr. Mime EX. Mr. Mime, I've seen quite a few of these cards, so at this point I never take much pause when I see another one of them. Really pretty card, and you can see many of those very characteristic EX era features of this card. One thing to note, FireRed and LeafGreen came out exactly with the releases of FireRed and LeafGreen, the remakes of the original Gen 1 games, which is probably why they lean so heavily into Kanto Pokemon for that particular set. Here we have a reverse foil FireRed and LeafGreen, so seal, and you can see here the reverse patterning. So if you notice from the earlier cards, for something like Hidden Legends, all of the energies were uniform in size. By the time they got to FireRed and LeafGreen, what you'll notice is that there are some energies that are smaller, like this leaf energy right up here, but then the steel energy is gigantic. And then there's a fighting energy that's like medium-sized over here, etc., etc. So they began playing around with how they would do unique hollow foils for the reverse cards. And that's sort of what they ended up at. As many of you know, the next logical step would be the stamped cards, as well as some very unique takes on hollow foils going forward. So the reverse foil has a really interesting history, having been introduced as early as Legendary Collections with the firework explosion hollow foil, I guess you can call it, or reverse foiling. And then here we see another step along the journey, dare I say, where they were definitely playing around with some really interesting and frankly gorgeous iterations to the reverse foil. Because effectively, I think this just looks like a hollow foil card. Like, if you can see almost in the video even that I'm practically using it interchangeably, and that's because genuinely I just believe these cards are that cool. So, you know, common card, tons of hollow. I think this is a perfect Pokemon card, especially because most times you got one of these cards in your pack and it made things a little bit more special. Obviously nowadays reverse foils are evolved to another form and format, so here we are anyway. Here is a card that I'm equally very happy to own and very sad to own. This, in my opinion, is the best Ghastly card I've ever seen. It just looks exactly like what I would want a Ghastly Pokemon card to capture, which is like the gas ball, and he's a little sinister looking, you know, super cool. The thing is this card was scratched, and you can actually see the amount of scratching on this card right there. So, I mean, not a secret why it got the grade it did, a PSA 5, but still a gorgeous card. Happy to have it in the collection. I was happy when I saw this particular lot of cards, and bear in mind, this lot is separate from the larger lot of cards that had a lot of those base set cards, had a lot of the EX, had a lot of the, you know, random expedition cards, the Aquapolis cards, as well as the Legendary Collections cards. So in a weird way, there was probably about 200 or so cards in the larger lot. This is a smaller lot that had about 50 cards, if I remember correctly. And here is another one of those cards. So for FireRed and LeafGreen, if I remember correctly, your reverse foil rare cards came with this thingamabobber on it. So this is like a little Pokeball, and then you'll notice that the star, to indicate its rarity, is also holographic, and so too is the entire back of the Pokemon card. So EX FireRed and LeafGreen is certainly one of those sets that, in retrospect, did a very good job of sort of bridging the gap between the stamped cards being the ones that have the set name right here. So what I think is really neat about this is that we got to see a few different iterations in the EX era. Mind you, the very early sets like EX Dragon and EX Team Aqua versus Team Magma had some relatively bland looking reverse foils. Here is a regular holographic rare card. This is the Neato Queen. Again, many of these cards get overshadowed by the EX cards from the same era, but I do think these cards are super cool, super pretty, and, you know, very similar to the way many people like, you know, their cards from their childhood. These are the cards that I've, like, very, very clearly remember. Interesting to note, right over here, you do have a swirl sort of right around her head, so I think that's an interesting little, you know, nuance to this particular card that isn't found in other cards. Certainly, you know, helps compel the collector that it's one of a kind. Here is a Kangaskhan. No swirl, but as you can see, tons of beautiful holographic pattern and a really nice look because it looks like it's just using the 1-2 punch move. I like cards like this, the ones that sort of tell a story or make the Pokemon use a move in its depiction. I think that's just a nice little way for the artist to kind of nod to the Pokemon. Now here is a card that I had really high hopes for. This is a Sceptile EX from Team Magma versus Team Aqua. Beautiful card, hilariously low population, and this card has a swirl. And this card is actually in phenomenal shape. So I really want to see what it is that caused this card to get dinged, because it really shouldn't have. I mean, I guess if I'm being honest, I was very optimistic about these edges down here. There is just a little bit of you know, rough and tumble, and there is a white spot up here as well. So I suppose I was being very overly optimistic that this card would get a 9 or a 10, but this was the card that was sort of sold to me, and I was told, you know, that, hey, like this, you know, this card might do very well just based on my non-grading opinion. When I got the card in my hand, I said the same thing, because I was like, yo, this card looks fire, bro. So still a gorgeous card and very low population. This is a card that's particularly hard to grade for whatever reason. I personally believe that because it's Team Aqua versus Team Magma, and I just smacked the crap out of the camera, and there's this extra area of holo foil, I mean, it's certainly not helping the case that the card is going to get a good grade. So that's just me and my 2 cents on why I think that is. I did end up grading another Blaziken. For those of you who don't know, Blaziken was my first ever starter Pokemon. I did not play the Generation 1 games first. I actually played the Generation 3 games first. And as a result, Blaziken will always be sort of my first starter Pokemon. So I do hope to one day get a 10 of this, but in the meantime, I'm chilling, you know, just knowing that I did have the ability to get one graded to 8. And I'm pretty sure in my collection I have quite a few other ones graded lower as well. Here is a good example of a reverse foil from early EX era sets. Just, you know, you could mistake it for a Expedition reverse foil as well. It just has that sort of Technicolor sheen to it. Very cool looking card, by the way. I love Walrein because this card I distinctly remember having as a kid, so having a nice one graded as a 6, I mean, you know, not the most popular card, so certainly doesn't need to be a crazy grade, but I'm happy I have a 6. It's something that I can look at. And finally but not least, a card that I do actually, again, distinctly remember from like grade school, Team Aqua's Cacturn. So here is another one of those really cool cards. This one, they really leaned in heavily with the CG, and then, believe it or not, there is a swirl right there. So you can see it swirling. And this is a really nice card. Happy that it graded a 6 and not lower. Realistically, I feel like the holo is scratched up and the backs are a little roughed up, but I'm really happy if I can just display this card like this. But Other than that, friends, thanks again for checking out another video. I appreciate you stopping by, and if you liked today's video or any of the cards you saw on screen today, definitely feel free to leave a like on the video. And hey, if you're not already and you think I earned it, feel free to subscribe to join the Gengar Gang. But other than that, friends, thank you again for checking out another video. I appreciate your viewership as always, and we will talk soon.